This video continues with the discussion of books 13 and 14 of Homer's epic poem, the Iliad. We continue along with what has happened so far, specifically in the midst of the fighting between the Greeks and the Trojans. When Book 13 begins, the Greek warriors are feeling extremely defeated and extremely down and feel as if there is no hope, even though Homer has time and time again shared with the reader that the Greeks will be victorious and that the Trojans will lose. In the midst of the fighting, the soldiers or the Greek warriors cannot see that. They are backed into a corner basically by their ships, and Hector has breached the wall, and they're basically at a loss. It's a standstill, and they don't know what to do. Poseidon then feels pity and sorrow for them and has disguised himself as Calchas so that he can go among the troops and basically rally their spirits. Remember that they have been warned by Zeus to not interfere out and out, so Poseidon feels that if he disguises himself that he can aid them without actually going against what Zeus has said. He is very aggravated at what is taking place and believes that the slaughter of the Greek soldiers is very unfair. Big and little Ajax, they're also referred to as the Ajaxes, or greater and lesser Ajax, and they are successful in driving Hector back. So there's this constant give and take, push and pull against both sides. And from the immortal realm, one could see that it is obvious who is going to pan out and be the victor. However, in the midst of the fighting with the mortals, they cannot necessarily see that because the omens are subject for interpretation, and so what may feel victorious on one day is not so much the next day. With all of this fighting, Hector is continuing to push forward, but Paris is not fighting in the way that he should, and he is chastised and chided by Hector for not being the man that he is supposed to be, because in his mind, this is all of Paris's fault. Even when fighting, which is, it is surprising that Paris is actually fighting, but even when he is avoiding the most dangerous places. Polydamas, Hector's close fighting warrior, the one who interpreted the omen before, he is continuing with his doubts and suggests that the Trojans stop and regroup. This time, an omen eagle appears, suggesting the impending victory, and it is interpreted by Hector to be one of victory for the Trojans. However, it is for the Greeks. Homer, as we've said, has made it very clear that Troy is going to fall, and there is a reminder that the purpose of the story is not to tell the behind the scenes or the happy ending that takes place with the Trojans and the Greeks. The purpose of the story, of the poem, is to merely tell of the rage of Peleus' son Achilles and how that rage must be satisfied. Keep in mind in the back of your mind that the way that this is going to be satisfied is through the deal that Thetis, Achilles' mother, made with Zeus, that the Greeks are going to become so desperate and downtrodden and fallen that they will beg Achilles to come back, and he will come back and save them and be victorious, thus making Achilles the lauded Greek hero. Even though, something to also keep in mind, that Hector knows in his heart of hearts, knows in the back of his mind that Troy is going to fall, he still presses forward. And this is a very important theme to continue to build upon, and that is this theme of duty and control, and that is something that Hector possesses. It is something that is a trademark of a Greek hero, and it is something that is a part of this code of honor. Knowing that they will fail, he continues to move on and to press on. On the flip side of that coin is Paris and his lack of concern. Hector has before, if you would give Helen back, if you would stop all of this, it would make it easier on everybody. But he absolutely refuses to return Helen, thus the continuance of the war. When book 14 opens, Agamemnon is absolutely ready to quit. He is interpreting the signs as the gods are against them, and he is continually, let's go home, let's do this, and the hoping that the soldiers, the Greek soldiers, would go, no, let's go, let's stay. They are ready to jump ship along with him. When this happens, Odysseus strongly rebukes him and says that Agamemnon himself is actually a catastrophe. He is no good for the Greek soldiers, and he is just giving Agamemnon the what for, and it is not until Diomedes actually steps in and says, we're not getting anywhere with this kind of speech. And this basically, when Odysseus steps out and gets on to Agamemnon, it is a breach of rank. However, Agamemnon is so beside himself that he is not offended, basically can't even see straight by Odysseus's words. And so when Diomedes comes in and steps in, he encourages the men. And like Nestor, he is a voice of reason. We have committed this much time to the war. We must press on. We must do something in order for our efforts not to have been done in vain. Another main theme, such as duty and control, is manipulation, and we've seen manipulation throughout the whole book as a whole. But there's one specific incident here in book 14 of when Hera, she sees that Poseidon is trying to help the Greeks, and Zeus has already warned them that they cannot interfere. So, in an effort to ensure that Poseidon is successful in helping the Greeks, and it's not necessarily that she cares so much for the Greeks, but that she cares and wants her side to win. She tricks Zeus in an attempt to aid, if you will, the Achaeans, and seduces him, sleeps with him, because he is in the throes of sexual desire for Hera. He cannot see through her tricks, and it is not until we get to book 15 that she's going to feel his wrath. Something that is very worth pointing out in this book is that Hera is not above deceiving, manipulating, or using women to get her own way. We've seen the other male characters in this book, and it's easy for female readers to go, oh, everybody's against the women, all the men just don't like the women, but that's not necessarily the case. It's Hera will also use whatever means necessary and go against the women in order to pursue her own way. And she has promised the Graces to sleep if he will then aid her. She tricks Zeus, and so there's lie upon lie upon lie that she is building. But one of the biggest points is it's not necessarily men who are against the women in Homer's works because of this ranking system, but it is Hera is not above putting that into use for her own benefit as well.